The old man barely flinched as the biker shoved him roughly, his fist landing squarely on his face. Blood dripped down, but the elderly man stood tall, fighting to maintain his balance. The bar, once filled with noise and chatter, fell into an eerie silence. Not a soul moved. The old man calmly took out his phone, dialed a number, and sat down without a word. Half an hour later, the roar of engines echoed from outside. A military convoy pulled up in front of the bar. The lead officer, a tall man with a commanding presence, marched inside. His eyes swept the room, and his voice broke through the tension. "Who laid a hand on my father?" The man standing in the bar was no stranger to battles. 85-year-old Jack Ford, a retired Marine, had seen action in Korea and Panama, and his years of service had left him with a body marked by time. The passing of his wife had left him alone, but every Saturday he made his way to the bar he once owned, now under new ownership, to wipe down tables. It was a quiet, routine act, a way to stay connected to a life he once led. The day it all changed, a gang of rough bikers barged in, loud and threatening. Their vests bore patches proclaiming their dominance, not earning respect. As Jack reached for his cleaning cloth to wipe up a spill, the largest biker sneered and snapped, "This table's mine. You're too old for this." Before anyone could react, the biker punched Jack across the face. The dull thud of impact silenced the entire bar. Blood flowed from Jack's cheek, but not one person moved to help. The bartender glanced away. The manager disappeared into the back. Jack, steady despite the pain, didn't react. Instead, he pulled out his phone and dialed the number that had been etched in his memory for decades. His son, Colonel Max Ford, commander of an elite military unit. When his son answered, Jack's voice remained steady. "There's been an issue with the crow's nest, but it's nothing serious." But Max could tell something was wrong. His father never called unless it was important. He told his father to wait, and without hesitation, Max began to mobilize his team. Back at the bar, the biker was emboldened by the lack of resistance. He smirked, relishing in the sight of the elderly man's humiliation. "Who did you call, Grandpa? The retirement home?" he taunted. Jack didn't respond, silently pressing a handkerchief to his cheek, the blood staining the cloth. When a manager approached, it wasn't to confront the bikers. It was to tell Jack to leave, to avoid further trouble. Jack, with quiet disappointment, stood and walked outside, settling on a bench. He made one more call, this time to the local police, to make sure the security footage of the incident would be secured. The young officer recognized his voice immediately and promised to retrieve the footage. Meanwhile, Max was on high alert at his base, reviewing operations when a message flashed across his screen. Code red, "Father assaulted." Max immediately jumped into action, rallying his team. "This isn't an official operation," he said as his officers moved quickly. "It's personal." In just minutes, 3 armored vehicles were ready to roll. Max didn't waste time considering the police. This wasn't about filing a report. It was about family, honor, and respect, something that couldn't be handled by any authority but his own. Outside, Jack sat calmly, his years of military training helping him remain composed, even as the bikers inside continued their mockery. The regulars of the bar sat silently, pretending nothing had happened, avoiding eye contact, too scared to act. One young waitress whispered to another, "Shouldn't we help him?" The answer came in a hushed tone, "It's not worth it." That's when Jack realized it wasn't about physical strength or retaliation. It was about making sure wrongs were righted, no matter how much time had passed. The silence, the indifference, was just as much an injustice as the assault itself. When a convoy rolled up outside, conversations inside the bar came to a halt. Max stepped out of the lead vehicle, followed by a team of Special Forces soldiers. They didn't need to carry weapons. Their very presence commanded authority. Max walked inside, his voice cutting through the silence. "Who hit my father?" The room stood still. No one answered. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. A soldier projected footage from the bar security cameras onto the wall, showing the unprovoked attack on Jack. Max turned to the bar manager, his voice calm but filled with a deep, simmering rage. "The man you sent outside built this place with his hands. "He's my father." Max addressed the biker who had thrown the punch. "You didn't just strike an old man. You struck a man who saved the lives of his comrades under fire, a man who's attended the funeral of every soldier he ever served with." The biker stammered, "I didn't know who he was." Max stepped forward, his voice lowering. "It doesn't matter who he is. Your actions show who you are." Max turned to his team, his command precise. "Secure the area." As his soldiers positioned themselves, one helped the manager prepare a report for the authorities. Another gathered the security footage. Soon after, local police arrived, taking the biker into custody for assault. Outside, Max approached Jack, who was still sitting on the bench. Max stood tall and saluted his father. Jack, though elderly, snapped to attention, returning the salute with the pride of a man who had served his country. One by one, the members of Max's team saluted Jack, recognizing the sacrifices he had made. Local bystanders watched the unusual scene unfold. Children pointed at the military vehicles, and adults whispered in awe. An important lesson was unfolding about honor, respect, and the deep bonds formed through service. Later that evening, after the bar had closed and the police report had been filed, Max sat with his father at home. "You could have handled it yourself," Max said. "I've seen you take on men twice your size in training." Jack smiled faintly. "I didn't call because I couldn't defend myself, son. I called because sometimes someone has to stand up for what's right." Max looked regretful. "I wish I had gotten there sooner." Jack shook his head. "There are two kinds of responses, the ones that come too late and the ones that come when they're needed most." A week later, a new sign hung above the bar, a tribute to the man who had built it and the legacy he left behind. Jack still visited on Saturdays, wiping down tables as he always did, but now patrons stood when he entered. A young boy asked him, "Did you really fight in a war?" Jack smiled gently. "Yes, but what I'm most proud of is having a son who knows right from wrong." Max visited as often as his schedule allowed, and one day he said, "Dad, I'm sorry I was 30 minutes late that day." Jack's face softened. "No, son. You arrived exactly when honor needed to be restored." The incident sparked a ripple effect throughout the community. Local schools invited veterans to speak. A new program was created to connect young and old veterans. Even some of the bikers returned, this time with respect, eager to hear Jack's stories. The bar had become a living testament to the power of respect and the unbreakable bonds formed through service. No one should have to defend themselves at 85, but when a man who spent his life serving his country is struck, he deserves to stand tall, unharmed. If you believe that honor transcends age and respect must be passed down through generations, consider this a story that honors the true meaning of valor.